Good morning. Welcome. Sorry for the delay here in getting started. As is customary sometimes with these webinars, we had a couple technical issues, but here we go. Welcome. We're very pleased to have our county executive with us, PJ Wendel. I'd like to start with just some general housekeeping, just so you know how to use some of the controls there on your screen. So today we are using a webinar platform. Therefore, your microphones are muted. You cannot project your own camera. However, you can ask questions. So please use the questions feature in the menu bar. We'll do our best to get to all of your questions, or as many as we can. A couple other features in the upper right of your screen. There's a menu of system controls. You can minimize that menu by clicking the orange arrow. Also, you can control your screen and who you see. I recommend for best viewing to go to the top of your screen and click on View Everyone. Also, you can control the size of each camera box by going to the lower right-hand corner of each box, and you can manipulate the size of each box there. And following this program, there'll be a survey sent out. Please provide us feedback. It's important to our continuous improvement of this programming. Before I recognize our sponsors, I do want to take a moment again just to welcome County Executive PJ Wendel. So PJ, welcome. Thank you for being here with us today. I also want to recognize and thank Assemblyman Andrew Goodell and Senator George Borrello for joining us this morning. Thank you for being with us. And now for our sponsors. I think it's important to point out that events like this could not be made possible without an investment from our members. We are a privately funded organization, and without our member participation, either through their membership investment or through their sponsorship investment, we wouldn't be able to do the work we do, nor bring you programs such as the program we're bringing here today. So thank you to Chautauqua Institution, DFT Communications, Jamestown Mattress Company, Lawley Insurance, Media One Radio Group, The Observer, Phillips Lido, The Post Journal, Serta Mattress Company, Southern Tier Environments of Living, University Advancement at the State University of New York at Fredonia, and thank you to UPMC Chautauqua. And again, thank you all for joining us this morning. I'd just like to cover a few things in terms of what our strategy has been for the Chamber and the Manufacturers Association over the past 2.5 months. We have taken an approach to help our members survive and thrive. And not just our members, we've worked with all businesses in this critical moment in our history and in our economy. And there are 7 components to our efforts. Number 1 has been to drive consistent and clear communications to our members. Number 2, connecting businesses with those financial resources that are available to help them manage through the financial challenges of the moment. Encouraging the community to support our businesses and continue buying local products. Number 4, building programs and services to help businesses through this crisis. Number 5, advocating for a safe reopening of our economy. Number 6, working on staying open. And number 7, we now look to the future and look to take action on both the challenges and the opportunities ahead of us. So again, thank you, County Executive PJ Wendel, for being here with us for this important discussion. Thank you for your partnership and all the work you've been doing. I'd like to now turn it over to you for some intro comments, and then we'll get into some questions.
All right, thank you, Todd. I'd like to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to be part of this webinar. As we know, one of the things that I stand behind firmly is a unity of effort and collaboration as we work together. And what better way than to sit down and discuss and listen to questions and input from the community that we have here in my office. You'll notice over my shoulder the other two file stacks. And my predecessors, I think it's unique that, you know, two former county executives and a current are on this call. And I think that being said, the collaboration with all of my predecessors, from Mark Thomas, Andy, George, Vince Horgan, everyone has been very welcoming, and they've all said the same thing. We've never been in your shoes. They've been in this seat, but to be in this unique time. But having said that, you know, either has our assemblyman or our senator in previous times as well. We are in a unique time. You know, I think about this, and I listen to people across the state. NISAC was one of the first groups to organize an effort across the state for communication. And it was a daily call. And then it went to twice a week, and then it went to weekly. And last night we finally said our maybe not our final farewell, but the constant communication has slowed down. Good news that happened, unfortunately for us, it was a turn. But in New York City, there were no fatalities from COVID-19 yesterday, which I think is remarkable. As you know, we have had 2. But having said that, when we look at what we have done in the last 100 days and the unity and the collaboration, and realistically, the pioneering that came from Western New York, those of us who are on here, myself, the senator, the assemblyman, and, you know, Todd in the chamber, and Mark Geis and the IDA, we know where things are going in New York State, and we know where they started. You know, I think back to several weeks ago, 5 or more, we put out a letter saying, businesses, let's take a look at a plan. Could you create a plan? Can you do something to would help you get ready to reopen? That was on a Wednesday. Well, Sunday, the governor said that, announcing it statewide, businesses to look at a plan. I know we were looking at a statewide one-size-fits-all reopening, and through the efforts of our assemblyman and senator, I'll refer to them because they're very close to me, Andy and George have done a great job. And their regional plan was, again, a lot of similarities in what they're doing across New York State and how it came from here. The template that we're using for most businesses, again, you know, Todd, you're very, very much instrumental in the part of that from the very beginning, and the chamber and the IDA of creating a template here in Chautauqua County. And lo and behold, these things have now resonated across New York. So for those listening, I think, you know, it's important to realize that because of our unique situation, because we were not thrust into the day-to-day battle of COVID-19, we were able to take the best practices of everyone across New York State and really take time to formulate our strategies, to use our best practices, and to do things in a safe and responsible manner. I think that's the one thing that we need to look at. You know, when my COVID-19 response team started out with 20 people, and as FEMA came in and we declared this an emergency, you know, with 30 years in the fire service, I have ICS, Incident Command System training. So we then changed our strategy to a large group, to a more focused group. Myself, the sheriff, emergency services director, John Griffith, Christine Schuyler, and then 3 physicians, Dr. Falk, Dr. Walters, and Dr. Burke. And when we make decisions from that response team, they're based on data. They're based on medical analysis. You know, Dr. Burke has a vast amount of history in public health, as does Christine Schuyler. But we have 2 incredibly young doctors, and Dr. Falk and Dr. Walters, who are constantly in contact with frontline. You know, Dr. Walters is part of the state police emergency response team and the terrorist response team. So he is in frontline listening to all the hot news that's coming out with treatments and so forth. So I feel very confident that my response team really took the initiative and were able to guide the county in a very safe manner throughout this. But then as this moved along, you know, then we realized that there was another component, the shutdown of our economy, and then the creation of my finance team, which is myself, budget director Kathleen Dennison, finance director Kitty Crow, and long-time members of our audit control committee, Jay Gould, Chuck Nazaro, and Pierre Chagnon, our chairman, along with Steve Abdella, our county attorney, and Jessica Wisniewski, our HR director. We sat down and then formulated a financial strategy moving forward. And we'll discuss that, you know, later in one of our discussions. But we've looked at this and we've gotten ahead of the curve, if you will, when it comes to reacting to the COVID-19 crisis. You know, I listened last night to NISAC and some of the counties and what they're doing. And, you know, I take great pride in the fact that We're already doing that. Or, we listened in some counties said, I'm going to create a resilience team, a team that's going to help us and guide us. Well, we had our partnership for economic growth, which was just starting, and now we're moving forward with that with a different focus right now and coming out of the COVID crisis. But again, as we come out, that group will then be able to shift focus to our economic development, which will be key to Chautauqua County. And as we know, there's some positive things that have happened. There have been some some decisions that were exacerbated by the COVID-19 crisis, and we can discuss those later. But for the most part, we have moved forward in a very progressive manner. The collaboration between myself and our state leaders, our local leaders, we meet, again, it was first 3 times a week. Now it's once a week. Now we've shifted gears to every 2 weeks with our highway supervisors, with our mayors and town supervisors. But myself, our state assemblyman and senator, also Congressman Reed is a phone call away and always in touch. And likewise, Kathy Hochul, our lieutenant governor, from the very beginning has reached out and always had a very open, very candid relationship with myself. And irregardless of the letter after our name, she's been very helpful in getting our message across the control room and getting our message to the governor. A lot of things that have happened in the last couple of weeks happen, with assistance from our control room. We are very fortunate that our control room, we have a doctor, Dr. Kane, out of the University of Buffalo, as an epidemiologist reviewing our numbers. And I think that's important. We asked that early on, and we're one of the only control rooms that does have a physician on hand that reviews the numbers. So we're trending in the right direction, contrary to a little bit of a spike yesterday with 7 cases and 2 fatalities. Chautauqua County still is moving forward. We are in phase 2. We have about a week ago, my response team and I decided to make the effort, and I brought it up in the control room. Can we look at outdoor seating? We have a great deal of businesses that have outdoor dining experience, and they rely on our summers. And Governor Hochul was very excited that we brought that. I think it's something she wanted to do, but wanted to make sure that there was an effort or initiative from the control room itself. So with a lot of support and effort, we got that. It went into effect yesterday. So I'm excited as to the opportunities and excited to see what we are going to be able to provide coming out of this. I think Chautauqua County will be a leader, whether it's government services, whether it's our community involvement, and the initiatives and collaborations we will now create moving forward. It's an exciting time. Some would question, and I hear people all the time, my previous career was a phys ed teacher, which would be a lot of online teaching and a lot different than what I'm facing now. But, I made this decision, and I've never looked back, and I've never once questioned the decision I've made. I look forward to challenges. I challenge myself daily, and I think this is what makes me a better person. But having that drive is going to bring Chautauqua County and making our county better as we move along. So again, I appreciate everybody's time today. There's so many things we will talk about. But I'd rather get to that and let people interact a little more.
Thank you, PJ. It certainly has been an interesting past 3 months, and to say the least. And I just want to say we've really appreciated the partnership with your office, County Economic Development, and the County Health Department in an effort to safely reopen the economy. Now that businesses are reopening, what do they need to consider in terms of remaining open? I think one factor, we've been trying to get out the message around the affirmation and some of those things. But from your perspective and from the perspective of the control room, what actions should businesses be taking, and how are businesses doing in terms of responding?
Our businesses are responding very well. We get a dashboard every day from John Majori. What's unique about our control room, you have the Lieutenant Governor, second in command in New York State from Western New York. You have John Majori, who's in the governor's chamber. He's our liaison from Western New York. So I think it's important that we have 2 individuals in the governor's office with a close tie that are understanding of where we are from. No one else in these other regions have that. No other control room has the ability to have a direct connection like we do from our region. But having said that, the most important thing that we want to make sure everybody understands is that affirmation is critical. Yesterday, 57 new businesses sign that electronic affirmation, which is incredible for Chautauqua County. We rivaled Erie County, a lot bigger than we are, but they've only had twice as many affirmations. So our businesses are really doing a phenomenal job. I urge everyone, and this is something we talk about in the control room, if you do not see your business in a specific area, whether it's now phase 3 or phase 4, you need to be ready to open at any time. Now, that being said, the guidance will come out, and we apologize. I apologize for that, for businesses that need to plan, but start to look at what the guidance is now and then how that guidance could be applied to your business. I know gyms and fitness centers are something that's really, I feel strongly about opening. I know that the owners of our fitness centers are going to be able to manage and maintain a safe environment as we open, but the health of everybody in Chautauqua County is critical. Working out is that stress reliever. It takes a little bit of the angst out of us every day, so it's really important. But those businesses need to focus on forward.ny.gov. If you don't see your business there, there's a NAICS NAICS code to punch in. If you don't know what your NAICS code is, type in the description of your business, and the guidance should be there. If not, it's coming. That's what I've been told, that it's forthcoming. And do a little bit of a hybrid. See what's out there now. Try to implement what's already a practice, and then how do you apply it to your business. But we're moving along. The other day, it was a little bit like Christmas in the control room. We had, State Line Speedway was given the okay to do an opening with no spectators. But again, a large, population of our community enjoys third track racing, and it's an economy that is thriving here in Western New York. The history that State Line Speedway has goes back into the 50s, and some of the greats of the NASCAR circuit were here in Chautauqua County. But having said that, we have outdoor businesses, outdoor dining, which has been a big plus, and several other things that have popped up. Estate sales, believe it or not, the absence of household sales was a big question we've had here in Chautauqua County. We have not had any direct guidance on lawn sales or garage sales, but the household sales and estate sales have been considered, and we're moving forward with those that have been approved to start. So a lot of excitement, but I urge those businesses, please get out there and review the information on forward.ny.gov and get that electronic affirmation. That's the best way. And those businesses that are open, thank you so much for everything you've done. Some have not closed. Many businesses were deemed essential. Some shortly thereafter applied for essential status and were granted that by Empire State Development Corporation, and they've been moving ever since. But the other piece to remember with that is, if you have been open the entire time, you still need to file that electronic affirmation. The plans don't have to be turned in. I apologize, there was some confusion in a press release, but the plans have to be on hand in case somebody asks you for them, or really it's a good communication piece with your employees. But the mandatory piece is that electronic affirmation, and get that in with the state so they know we're ready, and the state knows you're ready to do business.
PJ, I know it's hard to predict the future, but I'm sure there's been some conversation in the control room about if there were some community spread, say maybe in a more kind of more high density area, what could our businesses expect? I mean, I assume we hope we wouldn't go through a whole nother pause period for the entire region, but is there going to be, do you have a sense that there'll be some sort of protocol to deal with a spike in cases or some level of community spread in the region?
There is, yeah, Todd, there will be a protocol. We're evaluating that, and it's really I don't want to say a case by case, but it's going to be interesting to see where the spikes occur. Will it be in the community spread? What we have to remind people, those 7 cases that came in yesterday, a lot of them, all of them, were linked to contact with a positive case. Social distancing may not have been implemented. If you're testing positive and you get that quarantine or isolation order, we ask you to follow that. But the problem is some people don't. And as you don't follow that, if you don't, then you expose, or you're in contact with other people, then the disease is spread. we've seen that, when we had a spike in cases 2 weeks ago when we went to 10, 9 of those were from one contact, one positive case spread to 9 others. So again, we're reminding everybody to be very careful and be very diligent as you move forward. Because we are in phase 2 doesn't mean, and I give this visual because I think we've all been there, it's not the end of school where the doors open and we're running out, that we're, everything is back to where it was. We're still in a position, and even as we move through phase 3 and phase 4, our control room has been very in agreement across the board that we still have to follow these guidelines. There is still a danger and a risk of the transmission of COVID-19. Early detection makes it a lot more effective. That the treating it early increases the survival rate tremendously. When you look at our recovery rate, we're over 70 cases now have fully recovered. We only have 15 active cases right now. So it's important to realize, if you feel those symptoms, get to your healthcare provider. But to that point, the only idea we believe right now would be to pause in phase, wherever we're at. So for example, if we see a spike in cases and it's getting towards, that deadline of June 16th, I believe is the date for our next, it'll be 14 days. June 16th would be the next transition to phase 3. We may, if those cases are concerning, we may stay in phase 2 for another couple of days until we see the decline. What I think people have to realize, our numbers are coming down at a rate and are low enough now at a rate where, we feel confident that even a spike, it would have to be a pretty dramatic spike in order for us to take heed and say, wait a minute, let's stay at phase 2 for another week. So, and the best part about a daily meeting is we're observing those numbers on a daily basis. It's not like somebody said, we're stirring the pots on the stove and we forget about the turkey in the oven until it smokes. We're looking at every aspect, all of the metrics, whether it's our hospitalization rates, our ICU rates, the infection rates, mortality, all of those things are looked at daily. And first question is, our first statement is from Kathy Hochul. Second one is John Majori, and the third is Dr. Kane. What do the numbers look like, Dr. Kane? How do we look as we move forward? So again, one of the top priorities of our control room every day.
Very good. Thank you. Let's move into kind of another arena, and you touched on a little bit as we got started, but county budget, county financial condition. Obviously, the economic conditions the past few months have had, a devastating impact on the state and our local government budgets. For example, sales tax revenues are down significantly, as well as other sources. How bleak is the budget picture at the county level?
Well, again, like anything else, it's really, we're monitoring that, and that changes day to day. We're looking at projections from NISAC last night. The first 2 months of the second quarter for May and June of last year, the numbers are projected at a 30% less sales tax revenue this year than there was last year. Very concerning. But having said that, the finance team, I sent out a memo of a reduction in local share of 15 to 20%. That brought about a $4 million change for the better in our budget. We knew there were the shortfalls. We needed to correct those quickly. And through the hard work of our department heads and our employees and our financial teams, we were able to make those changes and amend our current budget for, well, 4.1, almost $4.2 million, 4.18 to be exact. We also instituted a hiring freeze for anything other than essential positions. We eliminated the use of overtime unless direct response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We suspended purchases of new equipment or leases. Any unnecessary travel has been canceled. We required that all purchases over $5,000 be approved by the budget director and our finance team moving forward. We were tracking all incremental expenditures related to the COVID-19 virus and how we will be reimbursed by FEMA. We've eliminated, again, all unnecessary travel and discretionary travel to conferences and meetings. Most of them, as we've said, have been Zoom meetings or GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar have been the means of meeting lately, and probably will be for the at least the unforeseen future. We've also directed our department heads to delay any non-essential spending or contracts for services. We're monitoring our federal and state funded programs. We were just told last night from the budget director that any projects for roads that were in action right now, anything that you've started will be funded. Any new projects, do not start them because they are not sure they would be funded from the state. Right now, our CHIPS money, which many towns and villages are familiar with, those letters are sitting on the governor's desk. They should have been signed and sent out 2 weeks ago. They are still there because we are not sure where the money is right now in the state budget. Most importantly, we've negotiated a memorandum of agreement with CSEA Local 6300 that was dated May 15th and implemented voluntary furloughs to achieve a necessary reduction in budget expenses and an alternative to layoffs. The savings of this was quantified and added to our 2020 budget amendments, and it will reflect in a very positive manner for county government. I can't say enough of how appreciative and thankful I am for our county employees to step up and think of the county before sometimes themselves. They looked at their situation financially, which I'm sure was challenging for families, but they made a decision that they were able to help the county out. And I cannot express my thanks and gratitude for myself personally, but for my finance team, the hard work that these men and women do day after day, but appreciate their efforts to help the county as we move forward to get through this crisis. Their efforts are affecting the residents of Chautauqua County by, keeping these numbers down and having a more concrete understanding is that's challenging toward our budget. But we are observing, we're looking at this daily. We should have received a sales tax payment Wednesday or Thursday. I did not get a report yesterday from Kitty Crow, our finance director, so we'll find out what that number is. Obviously, as you said, Todd, considerably less than it has been. With the other piece that people have to realize is that too affects our bed tax money, that 2% and 3% money that we have here in the county for funding of projects. That is, it's extremely diminished. So we're looking at this again daily. We have dashboards. I'm in constant contact with budget director and our finance director. We're on top of this. Very open dialogue with our legislature, Chairman Shagnon, minority leader, majority leader Nazaro, and Jay Gould, respectively. So on top of this, we're going to stay on top of this, and our job is to make sure that the impact is minimized for county residents.
So let's maybe pivot a little bit and talk about some good stuff too that's been happening. I think to the credit of you, to the credit of county economic development, even through all this challenging time, you've kept an eye on the future and some future opportunities. So the county's been working with a variety of organizations to pull together the Chautauqua Partnership for Economic Growth, which has really been focused on where the opportunities are in our county. Can you provide our viewers today a little bit of an overview of the focus of that effort and a little bit of an update on the progress occurring within the Chautauqua Partnership for Economic Growth?
Well, one of the biggest things right now that came about is Petrie cookies coming back to Silver Creek. This started back in February, and the discussion started. We met with Mr. Habib, and several of the managers that were part of Petrie when they left were all back, and it was it was a unique way, almost a coming home, as they walked through the plan as to where things were, gave us a layout as to where the ovens will go, where the product is going to be, the ingredients, etc. Very excited. But one of the things that happened was COVID-19, and almost weekly I would call or talk to Mark Geis, and say, hey, where do we stand with Petrie? Where's Petrie? Because as you know, the economic change was drastic, and many businesses were reconsidering what they were doing. And when you're looking at a large investment as they were going to make in Petrie, that could have collapsed at any time. So it was exciting to hear that we're still moving forward, and even more exciting to hear that the press release came out, and they said that they were coming back. One of the other areas we're looking at are our airports. We still are actively pursuing essential air service here in Chautauqua County, and I urge all the businesses to support that as we move forward with that. But having said that, we're also looking at our airports and how do we promote our airports? How do we grow our airports? There are smaller regions that have a vibrant airport in their area. So the next focus that I had prior to this was, how do we open up? How do we get our airports to be an incubator of sorts? How do we get businesses there? How do we get economy coming in and out of our airports? But we've had some grants that have come in for infrastructure with our airports, but the key component is that sponsorship of the essential air service. We're still working closely with the airline, with Boutique. We're looking with our new FBO, and they've really done a great job so far. A lot of positives. So, several of our businesses, Cummins and Blue Bunny up in the north part of the county, Dunkirk-Fredonia, have still maintained business, and their jets are still coming in and out of our airports and require fuel. It's great to hear our local pilots every day. Living in Lakewood, I see the planes and hear them, flying over. And every time they're up there, that's, sponsorship and support of our FBO and what we're doing at our airport. So the next point we have is to grow, our airports as we come out of that, and especially can't say enough of support of that essential air service. We're moving forward on the NRG site up in Dunkirk. We're looking, and we received a $60,000 ARC grant, which was matched by local funding and in-kind contributions. We've contracted with Bergman Associates. There's a two-phase project. Phase 1 was an environmental assessment. Phase 2 is now a reuse scenario. So we're looking at that every day. We do have a Zoom call this afternoon with Bergman as to where we're going to go and some conceptualizations that they have. And I've just told 5 different scenarios they have for reuse of that facility. The bottom line is that in that NRG, there's some environmental challenges that we have to be aware of on the shores of Lake Erie, make it a little bit more challenging, but I feel confident that what we do moving forward will be a benefit to the residents of Chautauqua County. Project Grow we talked about, which is now ESB, Empire State Brands, Chris Locarata. We met, I believe, in March with myself, Senator Borrello, former Senator Young with Cornell, Center for Excellence, and really moving forward on this. Gourmet integrated hops and barley and gourmet grains to be produced here in Chautauqua County. I think what's interesting too is a one-stop shop for our hops harvesting and production as we move forward. So although we may not see a growth or a large increase in farming of hops or growing of hops, which we're looking to do and aggressively pursuing, but also the production of hops and how it's transported and processed to have a one-stop shop in the north part of the county, Dunkirk-Fredonia area, is going to be critical for that. They've got a $2 million grant from the state, and we're working closely with Kathy Young, obviously a great champion of agriculture here in Western New York. But again, moving forward with some great opportunities. Our IDA has been key in moving forward with this. They started a small business capital loan that really went statewide. That capital loan program that they started early on, several calls, I think 12 different counties reached out to our IDA and asked how did they get that started, how is it funded, et cetera, and moving forward. So really exciting news. The IDA has been giving a sizable economic EDA grant to create low interest multi-sector revolving loan business for our not-for-profits. They've developed our COVID-19 working capital loan program that's assisted 25 businesses here in Chautauqua County, which is really important. So again, the collaboration and the movement of Chautauqua County into the future with our economic development is going to continue. And as you know, Todd, the most important thing when I listen to other counties and the uniqueness about where we are and listening to the NISAC conversations, I was able to take notes, and we need to start a revitalization or a regrowth economy. And we sat there and talked and reached out immediately, got some of the players, some of our not-for-profits together, and we're talking and how do we formulate this. And sitting in my office with my assistant, Dan Heitzenreiter, and said, you know what, we have, I call it CPEG, the Partnership for Economic Growth, and the infrastructure's there. And I reached out to Mark Geis, and of course, Todd, you're on that as well. And we thought, wait a minute, why reinvent the wheel? We have an economic system here, infrastructure already set up, public and private, great collaboration that was already started. So what we did is refocus that Partnership for Economic Growth to an economic resiliency, economic recovery. So I feel confident as we're moving forward, we're looking at our options, we're continuing to grow Chautauqua County. And my vision is, how do we become a leader and a pioneer in growth throughout New York State? How do we start things here in Chautauqua County and let that reverberate through New York State, showing them a small county of 130,000 or less individuals can really make an impact and change the environment and the economy in other regions based on our practices. So we're not stopping, we're looking forward, we're not looking back, and we're going to increase, our economic development as we move forward, especially moving out of this, as we move into, the rest of this year and moving into 2021. Challenges, we know they're going to be there. Financially, we're not sure what the horizon looks like, but I know, again, through collaboration and unity of effort, we are able to make Chautauqua County much stronger and a bright hope for the future.
Very good. Let's talk about lakes and waterways. Last year, particular to Chautauqua Lake, various lake organizations worked within a memorandum of agreement. Is there an agreement this year amongst the lake organizations, and what's the status of that, and what's the general status of the lake?
Well, you'll be seeing an op-ed coming out here in the near future from myself, the senator, and the assemblyman as we discuss the MOA. The lake is a passionate piece here in Chautauqua County. Depending on which side of the coin you are, whether you're for harvesting or for herbicides, our two larger groups, the CLA or the CLP, realistically, what has to happen is we have to come together. When I first stepped out of a simple role as a legislator and chaired what then was it's now the Community Justice Council. Back then it was the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. It was bringing together partners to look at a diversion for the jail population, which was over 300 at the time, and a concern. But my statement has always been coming together, leaving your differences at the door, and being able to sit down and have an open dialogue and discussion. And I still stand by that. We can't have discussion, we can't have dialogue if we're going to yell and scream back and forth, if we're not able to listen to both sides. The MOA was supposed to have been reviewed this year. We started, unfortunately, COVID-19 came along and really stopped a lot of things we were doing. Not to say we weren't focused on the lake, not to say it wasn't a concern of ours, but as we came out of this, we realized that the lake is going to be a vital part in our economic engine this summer. If we're not unified in treating the lake, maintaining the lake, and promoting our lake, it is going to be very detrimental to our economy. What I'm asking everybody is to lay down, the arms, come together, and work together. We're doing that. Vince Horgan and the Alliance has really been a key component as we move forward. The unique part about Vince being there is really almost historic to a sense that after we looked at the lake management group several years ago that was brought together to study the lake and where we need to go, what do we need to do? And Lyle Hoydu and Bill Evans were both instrumental in that management group. And four of us met, myself, Fred Crosscut, Vince Horgan, and Mark Tarbrake, and we said, we need to keep this going. We can't just stop with the study. We need to move forward. And from that meeting, over time, we came into the Alliance. Is it perfect? No. Is it a very viable working organization? Yes. Are we going to improve? Yes, every day. And those are the things we have to think about. We have to come together with a consensus. When County Executive Borrello, our senator now, started this, there was a lot of criticism. We had an MOA, but you didn't sit down with everybody. We realized that sitting down and getting an agreement with all those involved was challenging. That's why we were at the position we were at. But with Mark Geis, then Executive Borello, we came up with a memorandum of agreement, and was signed by many, many, many stakeholders, towns and villages. Not everyone, there were a couple of that didn't sign, but the ones that did agreed that we will move forward. The idea is we still need to move forward. You know, and as I said in our last alliance meeting, people were very critical. We haven't reevaluated that. Well, COVID-19 happened, and the safety and health of our residents were the concern and the focus of my administration. Now, as we start to move into a less restrictive environment, we're looking at the MOA. But it has to be that, a memorandum of agreement and understanding. It's not a memorandum of total agreement. We're going to work the best we can to come together, but not everyone is going to get everything they want. But we have to have that unity of effort. Otherwise, our lake is going to suffer. We've got some great things going on, some great science, but we need to leave personal agendas out of this. We need to look at the vibrant health of our lake and the economy that's really spawned by its activity.
Thank you, PJ, and thanks for your continued work on that and keeping those organizations working together. It's very important. Obviously, goes without saying, but you know that lake is such an important component to our local economy. So thanks for those efforts. Let's talk a little bit about community health. Prior to heading into the pandemic and the isolation measures, our community was already grappling somewhat with the impacts of mental health issues, opioid addiction, alcoholism. Have there been some indicators that these challenges maybe have been exacerbated a little bit as a result of the pandemic? And could you shed some light maybe on your observations or any data that's been produced related to that?
Well, unfortunately, there has been a toll of our opioid crisis, and we now have 6 fatalities from the COVID virus and 6 fatalities from the opioid epidemic. And unfortunately, the opioid epidemic continues. 30 years in the fire service, 26 as an EMT. I myself have used Narcan on patients. It's a growing concern, still growing concern. And unfortunately, COVID-19 infected a lot of areas, but it didn't infect our social problems. They still happen. The opioid addiction, our domestic violence has increased. One of the very first things, when that team met on, I'll never forget the day, on March 15th in the Emergency Office of Emergency Services, 20 or more people were at the table. Our sheriff was there, who's in constant contact. Myself, as a member of our Police Chiefs Association, again in contact with our police chiefs throughout Chautauqua County, law enforcement. One of the things they did that were concerned, and our social staff, Department of Social Services, realized that with this pandemic and an isolation of not a lockdown, but an isolation that first came out in a state of emergency, we realized the first thing was, how is this going to impact individuals? Whether it's alcohol use and abuse, drug use and abuse, domestic violence, being in the same situation day after day. Mental health was a key, piece of all this. We knew this was going to happen, and we relied on our partners that are already in the field to step up as they have, and did a tremendous job of getting out and trying to get ahead of this and get in front of this. We have seen statistics that show that there has been an increase. Again, our domestic violence, our drug and opioid problem has not stopped, but the efforts are there, and we realize that those on the front lines are working just as diligently as our contact tracers and our healthcare providers on the front line for COVID-19. We are going to continue to work on this. One of the initiatives I want to bring to this is a community health network. We have that with Chautauqua Health Network. We are going to grow that, just like we're seeing with the economic growth, the partnership as public and private. What we're going to do now is continue and expand the public and private collaboration for community health. We have some great leaders in Chautauqua County when it comes to our health. Dr. Lillian Ney is a stalwart for the community and has been there from the beginning. The Chautauqua Mental Health Association, Chautauqua Mental Hygiene, the Chautauqua Center, the Resource Center. I don't want to leave anybody out. COI, Stell, one of our sponsors, Chautauqua for Environment for the Living. There's so many people that play a role in this, and we want to bring people to the table and have a very collaborative movement going forward so that there is one voice in one area we can come together and provide those services. It's important and it's critical. The belief is, although COVID-19 could come back, the next crisis could be or would be mental health and our social issues that are happening right now. We see that across the country. But when you look at, think of if you were a young child or a teenager or a young adult right now, and you look at what's going on. You know, in the Great Depression, we were just coming off a world war, and you had an unemployment rate that was through the roof, and you had a decline of the banking industry and investments and so forth. We're stable in some of those areas, but if you're looking as a young person and you're looking at the future, you'd have to be a little timid, maybe a little scared. But what it is, it's the leadership of all of our community partners to move forward and to assure that our young people have a future as we move forward, and engaging those young people in that future. You know, because you're young doesn't mean you don't have the experience. It doesn't mean you won't bring something to the table. But again, I could say we're moving forward, but there's a lot of scary things out there. You know, when you look at what's happening nationwide, we need to unite, but we need to keep our efforts and get ahead of those indicators we start to see in spikes of domestic violence, child abuse. There's a lot of concern there. The kids aren't in school. How much abuse is going on without being detected? A big concern. You know, 26 years as an educator, you know, my last 7 were spent in an elementary school, and you know, those kindergarten, first and second graders are amazing kids. And you know, there wasn't a day that I ever didn't love going in, but I knew the hardships that they faced, and there are tremendous hardships. But again, this is going to bring about a bigger challenge for us. And again, that unity of effort, I keep saying that is something I stand behind, is what's going to be successful in protecting our youth, protecting our young people, and protecting the residents of Chautauqua County. And I feel confident that those individuals here in the county are going to work together and bring about a positive change in a real sustainable system for helping our residents.
Thank you, PJ. A couple more questions. Somebody online wanted some clarification. Are household sales considered estate sales, and do yard sales fall under estate sales?
As of right now, that's an ongoing question. The estate sales, a household sale, is considered an estate sale, and they are allowed to be conducted. They are limited to 10 people in the building at a time, and we've talked to several different. I know Hollenbeck has reached out to us. I know Jane Derby, Scott Meekus, to name a few, have reached out, and we've expressed our guidance for them or to them moving forward. Very specific. The yard sale, garage sale is still, there hasn't been a lot of clarity on that, but it's still considered an unnecessary gathering. And I know there's some question about that. We're still working. John Majori knows that's a question coming from Western New York, especially Chautauqua County. So we will keep everybody apprised. And like anything else, as soon as we get the go ahead, you know, I'll be getting that press information out and, you know, singing from the treetops that you could have your garage sales and yard sales. But right now, the only thing allowed and permitted are household or estate sales, limited to only 10 people in the building at a time.
Okay, and yeah, there's another question. To be clear, safety plans do not need to be sent to the county executive, New York State senators, contrary to the prior guidance. And that's correct. They do not have to be sent. Businesses have to establish plans. They should follow the New York State guidance, but they should have those plans easily accessible, available, and in some cases visible, particularly for their employees.
And, you know, to answer that question, Cap, you know, that's great. That's great you're asking the question, because if you think back to what we started with the chamber, with the IDA and Chautauqua County, that's what we asked. Send those plans. We had a plan before the state did. We had a plan in concert with our state leaders, county government, the chamber, the IDA, and CCVB. So it's a great effort to show everybody we were thinking, you know, and this group got together, we collaborated, and now you don't have to have them submitted to the state or to the senators. But again, it's good to realize our businesses took the initiative to get those plans together and are looking for a safe reopening.
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate your leadership on that, PJ, because I think, we set a tone too for our area of Western New York, that we're serious about safety, serious about protecting our employees and our consumers, our customers. And, I think that was an important part too, just as it relates to the advocacy, that it wasn't just advocacy that, oh, just let us reopen. It was advocacy around, we can do this right, and we were demonstrating it. So, thank you to you, George and Andy, for your leadership and partnership on that. One more question. How do you see childcare fitting into the whole reopening effort? Obviously, major issue.
Yeah, childcare is an issue we're looking for, because now, we don't have schools that are open. The interesting piece, the governor did talk about opening day camps, which a lot of question came about. I know a lot of programs were canceled early on. At this point, I don't know if those town rec programs will reconsider opening. I would encourage towns and villages to look at that. Now that the governor has allowed those to happen. When decisions were made, there was no vision as to whether or not we'd be able to open those. In fact, the governor's even looking at what they call stay away camps or overnight camps. So it's a fluid situation. Those camps are going to be crucial for daycare. But again, I have a meeting set up. Sue Marker reached out to me from the Child Care Coalition, and they want to be involved in a dialogue as how do we, get that information out there. There is a tremendous amount of money, I believe $160 million for childcare in New York State that's still been sitting in Albany. With that said, unfortunately, one of the things we're hearing, especially from NISAC last night, when it came to whether the federal money or the money that's been sent, the idea or the response we got back was, well, we didn't know people wanted it. No one's come to us and told us that. That's not true. We've been asking day in and day out. Every control room, every county has said, please get the money to us. That's the money that's needed. It needs to be in the hands of the local individuals, especially our childcare. So we're working together. We will continue to work. Childcare hasn't slowed down. Childcare is a very important piece of this, because, with the childcare, it gets people back to work. It gets our economy moving, and it gets the wheels, spinning again. But we are meeting. We'll continue to meet and, get those answers to individuals. The smaller childcare centers, running out of a home, I'm sure have slowed down, but there are concerns with reimbursements. We want to make sure that those funding levels are back to where they are. So we're looking at this moving forward. We're going to have some more dialogue, but it's key to getting that economy going and really having a vibrant system for parents to leave their children in trusted care.
And then PJ, reflecting on kind of the mental health discussion we had and a lot of the isolation some parents have had with their own children, opening up these camps and maybe having a full summer camp would be a relief to a lot of parents for a few weeks.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, I remember my summer spent doing camps. For the last 20 plus years, I've been the medical director for UB sports camps as an EMT on site. And, I know there were kids that, I spoke to one boy years ago that, he was at wrestling camp, then he's going to band camp, then to soccer camp. So he was at camps throughout the year, but that was, daycare for his parents as he moved through. A very active child, and it was, a great relief. But again, parents need that break too. What people have to realize, and many have, the struggles of working with your, having your job for those of you who are essential, or if not, the frustrations and working with your children at home, trying to be those teachers, trying to teach something that you're not familiar with or may not have a complete understanding of. So I know parents have had a different view of teachers in the last 100 days and the effectiveness of them. But you're right, Todd. To be cooped up every day is challenging, and we all need stress relievers. And we love our children dearly, but sometimes we all need a break and let kids be kids, and let the parents have a moment to themselves and a deep breath. So we will move that forward and continue dialogue and really start to get this moving a little bit faster.
Well, PJ, thank you for your time today. Do you have any closing statements you'd like to make?
I really want to thank everybody. It's everybody in Chautauqua County. My office staff has been here day in and day out. Some might have called it ground zero. This is operation headquarters, whatever we wanted to call it. But, I know for the first 21 days, I was in this office every single day, just to be on top of things, just to stay ahead of where we are and where we were headed at the time. Great people around me. My COVID-19 response team, Dr. Burke, Dr. Walters, Dr. Falk, Sheriff Patrone, John Griffith, Christine Schuyler. They've been my go-to people from day one. And all of the people that work underneath them that have provided PPE, contact tracing, our nursing staff, etc., our sheriff's deputies who are out there still continuing to do their job. Everybody was integral. And then we shifted gears and looked at my finance team, Kitty Crow, Kathleen Dennison, Pierre Shagnon, Chuck Nazaro, Jay Gould, Jessica Wisniewski, and Steve Abdella. Steve has been there every day as well, signing off on our declaration for state of emergency. So my team has been great. My office staff, Danny Heitzerader, Amanda Gallagher, and Jennifer Borello have been phenomenal. If people realize, we're compared with Erie County a lot. And when you look at Mark Polikars, who I'm talking to all the time, he's got a staff. He doesn't have 3 people. He has, video groups that get his press conferences ready. He has statisticians who produce everything, and their own Department of Health that does its own testing. We're a smaller county, and our county has really stepped up and done a great job. I will say this today, and I will continue to say this, and I think it's really important, and I wish everybody would pick up on it. Early on, I came in one day to our I call it a control room, or my response team, and I put hashtag CHQ strong, a little hybrid from Chautauqua Institution and some of the other strong movements. And I said, this is going to be what we're following. And it was so pleasant to see one day in Wegmans, they put CHQ strong in a huge display. That small piece of information, that small hashtag has generated a lot of excitement and unity throughout Chautauqua County. But the next phrase that I want everyone to catch on with is our comeback will be greater than our setback. I know the people of Chautauqua County. I know what they're able to do. Don't forget, we still have that small business revolution going on up in Fredonia. I'm still getting contacts from businesses that are able to open and saying, one of the hair salons that said, I have so much business right now, I don't know what's going to happen. I need, more hairstylists, more salons to be there and be actively open. So we want Chautauqua County to come back better and stronger than ever. And I know we can do that. There's no doubt about it. I have faith in the people in this community. I have faith in the leadership. I have faith in the work effort, and I have faith in every single person who gets up and puts forth the effort to make Chautauqua County better. And again, this comeback will be far greater than our setback.
Nice job, PJ. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
I want to remind our viewers today, on Monday at 3:30, we'll have our weekly business webinar. We'll actually be talking to a couple businesses that have been reopening, and they're going to share a little bit about, their experiences and some of their best practices. Also, a reminder, you will get a survey shortly after this webinar. Please take a moment to provide us some feedback. Again, it's important to our continuous improvement of our services. And to our guests here today, we wish you, your families, your employees, and your customers good health. So stay safe. Let me do that again. Stay safe and be well. Have a great weekend. Take care. Thank you, PJ.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you so much.